and we're not going to pay it anymore. We're going to have Waltz go pay. We're not going to pay them, and we're not going to pay California, and we're not going to pay Illinois with that big slob of a governor that they have that doesn't want to. You know, we brought down crime by 25%. He didn't do anything. He's not doing anything.
President Donald Trump over the weekend talking about child care fraud in Minnesota and saying he's not going to pay them, he's not going to pay California, he's not going to pay Illinois, saying that Governor J.B. Pritzker is a slob of a governor. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning as we break things down for you. And, of course, you've got a slew of headlines out of Minnesota. Oversight Committee calls former gubernatorial candidate, he's still the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, former vice presidential candidate Tim Walz, to testify on this suspected fraud. So that's going to be happening. You've got funding for Minnesota child care centers being paused. And as we heard the president say, they're going ahead and not going to pay fraud in other states as well. Another headline that you can find at the Center Square, federal agents on the ground investigating Minneapolis fraud claims. All of this seemed to come to a head yesterday. Still a lot more in Minnesota that's going to be delved into. But Tim Walz, again, former vice presidential candidate, governor of Minnesota, he says that he is now stepping out of the race for re-election. Minnesota has to come first always, Walz said on X. He says, today I'm proud of the work we've done to make Minnesota the best place to live and raise kids. I've decided to step out of the race and let others worry about the election while I focus on the work. You can go through and read a more detailed statement from the former vice presidential candidate and governor of Minnesota saying he's not going to be running for re-election. Interesting to see that yesterday as splashed all over the headlines and the reaction from across the spectrum. Obviously, something you would expect. You've got President Donald Trump posting on X a pretty bombastic message about Waltz stepping down. He says that Waltz has destroyed the state of Minnesota, but others like Governor Gavin Newsom, J.B. Pritzker, and Kathy Hochul, they've done, in Trump's opinion, an even more dishonest and incompetent job. No one is above the law, Trump posted on Truth Social. So obviously getting some immediate reaction from the president. But you also had reaction from Governor J.B. Pritzker. He posted on social media, my friend Governor Tim Walz has been a dedicated public servant from his time in the National Guard to governor of Minnesota. Everywhere he goes, he carries with him the Midwestern values of kindness and standing up for working families. Thanks for his service and sacrifice. So all of the fraud allegations and the on-the-ground reporting and independent journalism going in and finding out what's going on in Minnesota with the fraud there and the child care system has that being elevated in other states as well. As you heard, President Donald Trump saying that he's not going to be paying the fraud. Here's that full quote, including the president derailing a little bit from the fraud conversation to talking about public safety and, again, mentioning the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois.
But what they are doing is they're stealing money from the American taxpayer. And every one of them should be forced to leave this country, including Ilhan Omar, who's a total crook. And she's one of the leaders of it. Not the only, because she's not that smart. But think of it. $19 billion at least they've stolen from Minnesota and from the United States. It's actually more from the United States because Minnesota puts in, and we're not going to pay it anymore. We're going to have Waltz go pay. We're not going to pay them, and we're not going to pay California, and we're not going to pay Illinois with that big slob of a governor that they have that doesn't want. You know, we brought down crime by 25%. He didn't do anything. He's not doing anything. But they want us to leave. He had a day where they had 17 murders. Not too long ago, 17 murders and 77 people shot, but 17 died. And then he talks about, we can handle it. He can't handle it. But we pull back, and we'll go in at the appropriate time. But we're the ones that brought the crime down. We brought it down 20%. They didn't bring it down. Pritzker didn't bring it down.
So again, Trump saying he's not going to pay California or Illinois child care fraud, but then he talked about Pritzker and the back and forth they continue to have about public safety. Of course, last week the president announced that he's withdrawing troops from Chicago and elsewhere, and he'll send them back in if needed. But over the weekend, the president shared this on X and on Truth Social, a AI-generated image of Illinois' governor holding up a sign that says, "Chicago doesn't need help. We have everything under control," while the governor holds up a cheeseburger. Interesting to see that coming out of the White House. So obviously the back and forth over public safety still paramount, but it's the child care funding that's taking a lot of focus now. And I did get this statement from the U.S. Health and Human Services press secretary. I will pull this up for you so you can see it. They told me that funding allocations can be viewed here. We'll click through to that to see how much money we're talking about is overall spending in federal funds. But you've got the press secretary saying HHS has a clear duty to verify the proper use of taxpayer funds. The documentation process exists to rule out fraud and confirm that funds are supporting legitimate child care providers. These requirements help ensure the integrity of the program and protect both families and providers. The onus is on the state to provide additional verification, and until they do so, HHS will not allow the state to draw down their matching funds of the CCDF program. So you click through, you go through the CCDF program, you can find the allocations for appropriations of fiscal year 2025. It's a chart, breaks it down for you, shows you all the states. Let's just go to Illinois. Illinois is getting $412 million in total federal funds, $412 million for child care programs that the federal taxpayers are sending to the state of Illinois, $412 million. What's Minnesota got going on? Minnesota's got $184 million that the federal government's providing. What's interesting, though, is Illinois is not the highest. Of course, you've got states like Florida, very highly populated. They get $721 million. States like New York getting $638 million. States like California, let's see what they've got going on. $1 billion going to California in child care assistance from federal taxpayers. So how much of that's fraud? Don't know yet. And honestly, if you look at some of the federal prosecutions there have been, they're millions of dollars. And you're talking about $3 million in one case, $2 million in another, as reported by the Center Square. Go see the story yourself. All of the money that there is involved, not just the $412 million that the federal government provides, but you've also got the state taxpayer spending on this. Overall, $2 billion for the Illinois Child Care Assistance Program for fiscal year 26, an increase from $1.7 billion in fiscal 25. This year's budget also allocates $777 million for child care services. Now, according to the Illinois Child Care Report Program, CCAP served 198,000 children, and there's about 26,000 providers throughout the year, around 7,000 of which were licensed and categorized as child care centers. The other 18,900 providers were licensed exempt centers and homes. So we do have a pending FOIA request from the Center Square to the Illinois Department of Human Services to find out the instances of fraud that were founded within the agency that handles that. So we're hoping by the end of the week we can get some indication of what's there. But the overpayments, there is a process in state law that goes into how to get those payments back. There's even some language in state statutes that talks about possible criminal referrals. But here's just several Illinois cases that federal authorities have prosecuted. In 2024, the owner of the Chicago area child care center was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison for scheming to fraudulently obtain more than $3.3 million. You have several other instances. In August 2023, former Illinois Department of Children and Family Services social worker and 14 others were indicted for $3.2 million in state funds that were diverted fraudulently. You've got the call for people to report fraud. So you can do that by contacting the Illinois Department of Human Services. You can also contact the federal Human Services Division and get your complaint filed that way if you suspect that there's fraud. So obviously a lot of things to consider here, as we have yet to get a chance to ask the governor if he thinks that it's important to go after child care fraud, and highlighting some of the recent high-profile cases from the past couple of years here in Illinois. 3.3 million, 2 million here, 3 million there. It adds up, and that's money that could be going to those who really need it for child care assistance, instead of it being fraudulently used in the system. So clearly a lot more is going to be said about all of this. Go to thecentersquare.com, sign up for the newsletter, get the headlines in your inbox, and we'll continue to put a spotlight on this as we expect to hear more and possibly get some documents about known cases of fraud from the past 5 years in the state of Illinois. It is Illinois in Focus Daily.